Good morning, Tampa Bay. Sorry, technical difficulties. I guess kind of like the Lightning last night, unfortunately, in game four. What is going on? I am Danny. We got a good show lined up, as always. Talking Tampa Bay Lightning hockey, game four last night obviously did not go our way. Um, Lightning looked good at the beginning, and then the wheels appeared to have just completely fallen off. We will get into that, of course. Henry Yoho of Bolts by the Bay will be joining us as we dissect what went right and what went wrong in game four. The Tampa Bay Rays kind of stay hot at the plate, although they come up short to the Yankees, which is kind of a promising position for them to be in, especially given where they are with the insurmountable amount of injuries. And we are finally actually going to cover the Warren Sapp comments on Jon Gruden. We have a little tidbit of the quote for you, which we will put up. That's obviously going to be towards the end of the show. But I guess we'll kick it off, and we will bring in our good friend Henry, who was actually in attendance for the game last night. Henry, good morning to you. How are you feeling on this? Is the first time in a little while we have not had a Victory Thursday good morning speech.
Yeah, good morning. It's not a great feeling, a great outlook on things right now, but it is what it is.
And that's the best way that we can describe it right now. I mean, obviously we have not been in this position. Many who have been in this position have not come out on the winning end. It's 35-1. It's been a 3-1 deficit in Stanley Cup final history 36 times. But I mean, hey, let's silver lining this bad boy a little bit. We overcome a lot of different things that this team has been put up against. So I look at a 35-1 slant. And yeah, it's scary. Yeah, it's not where you want to be, of course. But I look at that and go, I mean, yeah, but this isn't this team, right? Like, that's not this group of players that have been to the top of the mountain 2 times and looking to do it a third time. I guess I could deep dive and figure out like which of these 36 teams they are that have been down 3-1 in the Stanley Cup final and which 35 have lost and which one has won, and feel pretty confident that this Tampa Bay Lightning team is better than that team.
Yeah, for sure. They've been knocked down over and over in this playoffs, and no matter what happens, they always get back up. So, this is definitely a bigger hole than anything that they've had over the past 3 years, and I would expect them to have a great effort in Game 5 on Friday, and you can't count them out until they're dead. So, they still have a shot. You just got to win. You just got to win one game. That's all you can do. You can only win one at a time, and of course, they have to ultimately win 3 in a row if they want to keep this thing going. And that's that's a tough challenge, but you can only win one at a time.
What was the energy in the arena like last night? Obviously, in the first period with the dominating performance that the Lightning had, I'm sure that, it was electric, no pun intended. And then it just seems, as the wheels fell off, so to speak, and Colorado started turning it around to where they were now kind of leading the Lightning in terms of puck control, offensive zone time. What was happening around you when this was going on?
Yeah. I mean, the start was obviously unbelievable. The Colorado for the first 3 games of the series has owned the opening 10 minutes or so, and they've scored first in every game so far. And to get a good start like that, you almost thought this was going to be their night to take over, sort of, just because they've created a confidence among everyone following this team that they can take over as series go along, and it felt like that was going to be the case at first. But even after even after going up 1-0, kind of Colorado sort of even, they might have even had a better start to the game just the way that they were pushing back right away. It took a while until they got on the board, and even whenever Colorado scored, it was on the power play, and it was almost like, well, these guys can only score on us on the power play. That was sort of the feeling then. And then they ended up getting one at 5-on-5, at the start of the third period. And, once that happened, it was almost like, wow, they've kind of gotten one here. They haven't gotten one at 5-on-5 in the first 5 periods of the 2 home games. And so from there was a lot of uneasiness for sure. And, the tension once it got to overtime was, it's obviously very great for sure. A lot of uneasiness about it. So,
yeah, I honestly, I was anticipating it going into a second overtime. The way that it looked like a stalemate. We can say that I think it was apparent that the Lightning controlled the game in the first period, and then they just gassed out. That's what it seemed like to me. And we can't make the excuse of, they just played a lot of hockey over the last 3. Like we can't use that as an excuse, because I don't buy that. Like, we're all professionals. I say we, like I'm part of the team, but they're all professionals. They know how to handle themselves. They know when they need to kind of, throttle it back to 90% versus 100%. Like they know how to maintain their bodies. So for me, making that excuse of, they played a lot of hockey, I think that's just an easy cop out.
Yeah. No, I felt like, for the most part, they played a pretty solid game through most of the regulation. I think that they probably deserved to win, but that definitely wasn't the case. And, for me, thought, instantly and still is that in the overtime, especially, and, even in the third period as well, it just seemed like they kind of ran out of gas. That's all I can come back to. And it seems like the injuries are sort of taking a toll on them. It was tough, regardless of, the forward situation. They were playing with 5D for pretty much the third period and the entirety of the overtime. With Chernak out, your top right-hand shot defenseman, going without him the rest of the way. Everyone's scrambling, and everybody was getting gas back there on D, especially when you got a fast team like Colorado coming at you. So, Ruda was getting a lot of ice time, and I thought that he was pretty good, to be honest with you. But the numbers were piling up for the ice time for the defense. They were kind of scrambling with only 5 of them out there now.
Yeah, I think Jon Gruden really stepped it up. I mean, when there was an attempt at any sort of rush, whether it was an even strength or an odd man rush, it didn't matter. He was stopping the puck pretty routinely, and he was slowing down, if not completely halting that rush. So that was definitely something that I noticed from my TV screen of watching that, going, okay, yeah, Ruda's definitely stepping up, and he is becoming a force, and he's kind of putting the defense on his back. It was almost like everybody had a role yesterday, and that was like his role of, hey, Jan, you're going to go out there and you're going to stop rushes when you're on the ice. And he was effective.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the ice time now. He had over 22 minutes, and he's, of course it went to overtime, but, in most regulation games, he's probably seeing 14 or 15 minutes. So, with only playing with 5D, he was one to step up, especially as a right-hand shot. So I thought he had a great game, but, it was a little bit too much overcome as, the defense especially kind of ran out of gas, as well as the forwards too.
How good do you think it felt for Victor Hedman to get that goal the night after Makar beat him for the best defenseman?
Yeah, no, that definitely felt good. There was one clip of I don't remember exactly when it was after Makar won the Norris, and it was announced at the awards, and Hedman kind of had this funny sort of reaction or smirk, I guess, when the cameras went to him. But because of course everyone knows what the real trophy that those two were going after is.
Right.
But yeah, it had to feel good for him to get that one, and it's it's unfortunate it couldn't have ended up being the game winner, but here we are.
I mean, yeah, We know that, and like I said, I'm not using this as an excuse because of all of the reasons I stated earlier. But we know that the Lightning totally gassed out. And what happened? Do you think it is just too much hockey? Is that what it was, or do you think that that was come out firing on all cylinders, and then it was like oh man, we came out firing too hard to where they just had nothing left in the tank, or was it a schematic thing of we're going to come out really strong, we're going to reel it back a little bit, but as they were reeling it back, Colorado was ramping it up?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's hard to say, just because everyone wants to start strong, for sure, and they were coming out of the gate pretty hot, and you can't say that you regret doing that. So playing with the lead was kind of tough for them because Colorado was really pushing back strong, immediately, and so I just felt like Colorado got their legs going more as the game went along, and we might be seeing sort of the impacts of the rest that they've had over the course of playoffs. This is where we started to see it from the Rangers series for the Lightning. Those games, 3, 4, 5, where it was like, oh, okay, this team is rested playing against a team that had played 2 straight seven game series, and the mileage on the Colorado legs isn't quite the same as it's been for the Lightning. They've played. They swept rounds 1 and 3, so they've only lost 3 games in total in playoffs. So that means that they're not playing a whole lot of games. So the mileage hasn't really piled up in the same way for them as it has for the Lightning. But I think that they look truthfully like in the second and third or the third period in the overtime, the Lightning did that. They looked like a team that had gone the distance 2 years in a row, and the mileage on the legs and the bodies and the injuries were kind of piling up, and it kind of just made for a perfect storm for them, sort of seeming to run out of gas.
Yeah, I mean, you can see a lot of the guys, even after regular shifts, are kind of huffing and puffing a little bit more than they normally would. Where you see I think Manson had like a 3-minute shift last night for Colorado. And I mean, you basically needed to roll out a stretcher for him when he was getting off of the ice, and you expect that. But I did notice that there was a lot more players being winded. A lot of our guys were being winded, a lot more, and it could, it's ticky tack injuries, it's nagging injuries at this point in the season. We're talking about the 4th game of the final series of the entire season. Guys are getting hit harder. That's what playoff hockey is. Playoff hockey is harder hits. It's faster skating. It's harder slap shots. It's, and I think that it's just a culmination of a bunch of things. And, I'm not trying to sound bleak, but for 3.5 games out of the 4 that we've played, Colorado has looked like the better team in its entirety.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's something that you can just sort of, find some sort of peace in. I feel like Colorado's just been the better team. You can look at so many little things or little trends or specific moments and things like that to determine where individual games or the series has sort of shifted. But ultimately, they've just been better. That's all you can say at this point. I just felt like they've been better in every aspect of the game for the most part over the course of the 4 games, and they've got the 3-1 lead to show for it. So I think it's well deserved, truthfully.
Yeah, I got to touch on this because I have a lot of this didn't age well comments on my quote from the show yesterday, saying that the momentum had shifted due to them pulling Darcy Kemper.
Mm-hmm.
Did you watch the first period? It did. The momentum clearly was a shift, and they just couldn't continue. They couldn't keep it up.
Mm-hmm.
This has now become more of a physical game than a mental game in my opinion. The Lightning just don't have it left physically, and that's I 100% believe that. I don't think that they can physically match up against the Colorado Avalanche for the same reason you just said. There's way more mileage on their legs, on their bodies. than the Colorado Avalanche have. So I think that this is a point in time where if you're going to beat Colorado, I know James said that beating Colorado 3 straight is nearly an impossible feat, which is probably correct. But if you're going to extend this series and you're going to stretch it out, you need to be able to beat them with your mind. And we know that John Cooper can basically beat any coach in the NHL with his mind. Mm-hmm. And then you combine that with our experience of Stamkos and Kuch and Hedman, who's finally Hedman's back rolling, which is great. But this is to me, this is like a mind over matter thing at this point to extend the series. And who knows? One team has beaten the odds out of 36 times. Maybe the Lightning are the second team.
Yeah. No, it's we'll see how the experience plays in for both teams. The last few years we've seen that in the first chance to clinch the Stanley Cup, the Lightning included, the first 2 times they had the last 2 seasons, they ended up losing the first try for going for the cup, and the year before, Boston ended up losing their first try at winning the Stanley Cup, and then they lose the second one as well. But when you have the Stanley Cup in the building, there's a lot of excitement. Everyone's got their families coming. There's so much going on. There's so many emotions and excitement that go into it, and it'll be tough. It'll be interesting to see how they handle it. Colorado, they haven't really had a whole lot of guys who've been there and had that sort of feeling before going into a game. So the cup's going to be in the building, but you can't. I don't necessarily expect that they won't have any sort of nerves and stuff like that. Yeah. So we'll see how they handle it. It'll be really interesting. So we'll see.
Do you remember when they brought the Larry O'Brien Trophy to Miami when they were playing against the Spurs? And then Ray Allen hit that 3 and not only extended the series, but the Heat went on to win the series. How sweet would that be for us to have that moment in hockey?
Yeah. As a kid who spent some of their childhood in San Antonio, I certainly remember when that happened.
That's right, you did.
So that would be a interesting roll of fortunes for some of us.
It'd be like a full circle. Yeah, you'd be upset first, and now you'd be happy second. So I mean, yeah, you.
Yeah, well, that's sports. You never know what you're going to see.
Obviously, there is the controversial call in overtime on the goal where there were 6. There were clearly 6 men on the ice. You can see there's multiple pictures. Fans are circling the 6th man. Blah 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 blah. And I get it. It's a judgment call, and if the referees don't see it, they're not going to call it. You can't. It's not a challengeable play. You can't review the play. It's a judgment call, and to be frank and to be fair, it's a judgment call, just like them not blowing the whistle on the Cirelli goal at the beginning of the game.
Yeah, so that's a real interesting point of conversation. I guess to start with, for me, I'm not dwelling on it just because I feel like Colorado deserved it the way they were playing in overtime. And, I don't think that anyone would really argue with that. It's hard to really make that as a sort of excuse, I guess, for why they didn't win. But it's really interesting. There obviously were 6 guys on the ice. And, that's such a tough call to make. The game is so fast. And that's a tough thing to keep up with in general, is keeping the right number of guys on the ice. But after the whistles kind of got swallowed in the third period, going both directions, I felt like it was really hard to expect them to call a really close too many men on the ice penalty in overtime. So I guess, the topic of conversation for me that bothered me more than the physical play itself was sort of the weird sort of cover-up the NHL has done. I don't know if you saw, but the official game sheet that was physically printed after the game ended up showing 6 guys on the ice for Colorado. So they ended up having 6 guys on the physical game sheet that everyone got, and then the NHL.com ended up changing it to have 5 guys. and it's just really weird how they've sort of scrambled for this. And then the interesting point is that the guy that they removed for the sixth guy was Eric Johnson, number 6, and he wasn't the point of contention. It was the guy at the bench, which was McKinnon. So it's
Right.
it's just weird the way the NHL has kind of handled this, and you know they might have gotten it wrong, but it's just strange topic of conversation to be having.
Yeah, you can make a statement and say and literally say that, hey, the rule book states that too many men on the ice is a judgment call. Like
Mm-hmm.
you can say that, and I mean, we have to accept it, right? And to me, if you hit the nail on the head, the Avalanche were outplaying the Bolts anyway in overtime. So to me, it was either going to be a saved by the bell moment to where it was going to go into a second overtime, and possibly, possibly things could have been different on the outcome. But there was still a lot of time left in overtime, and with the Avalanche rolling and doing everything that they were doing, I still think that it was probably going to end in the first overtime with the Avalanche unfortunately scoring, whether they had 5 or 6 men on the ice. It was a matter of the Bolts were getting outplayed at that point.
Yeah, I agree. I remember sitting there. I said to my dad, I was like, it's only a matter of time. The Lightning were completely under siege for pretty much the entirety of the overtime, and I was looking at the shots on goal. Of course, that's not doesn't tell the whole story. And I was like, I feel like the Lightning don't have any in this overtime, and it felt like a matter of time for Colorado because they just kept chance after chance, and Vasilevsky was out of his mind in the third period and the overtime especially. He was the only reason it went as long as it did.
Yep.
So I thought he deserved a better fate because he was on another level. But it just felt like the chances that they were getting, it was only a matter of time until they got one by him, regardless of how it really ended up happening or not.
Yeah, we've talked about this, after several Tampa Bay losses in the playoffs. Of Vazzy can only be so good. Whether he's a top 4 goalie of all time already at the age of 27, you can debate that until you're blue in the face, and that's fine. But he is one of the best. He's at least top 10 already all time. And I don't think anybody can refute that point. Where I'm going with that is it doesn't matter because he can be as good as he can be, and you're still going to score on him. Like that's just that's how hockey works. It doesn't matter how good the goalie is. He's still going to allow goals if your defense is not playing well. If they're not, I mean, yeah, we led pretty egregiously in blocked shots, but even after that dominating first period, Henry, the only thing that the Lightning led in the first period was faceoffs and shots. They had 9 giveaways in the first period. Like I feel like when we say that they dominated the first period, it was simply because of the shots on goal. Mm-hmm. Because that's, to the naked eye and to the average watcher or the average tweeter or whatever that's watching the game, when they look and go, yeah, we completely dominated the Avalanche. Yes and no. We clearly had more energy, and there was a reason why the shots on goal were so slanted towards the Lightning, and that was because of defense. This is a defensive-minded team. This is like the Bucks when they won their first Super Bowl. This is a defensive-oriented team to where if you're not going to play your top-notch defense, you can't always rely on your offense because this is not a scoring powerhouse Tampa Bay Lightning team.
Mm. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, the first period I thought was good, was real good. They had the advantage in shots on goal and the scoreboard, as you mentioned, that made it look like that. And I still felt like, not just the first period, as the game went on, the Lightning were still having trouble getting out of their own end. The pressure from Colorado was really mounting. And yeah, as you mentioned, it's a little different this year. The Lightning don't have the real high-end offense that they've had in years past, and of course the injury to Point has a lot to do with that. So they can't quite score at the level that they have in previous runs, and the emphasis has been more on defending. And obviously this is a tough team to defend, but you heard Barry Melrose say that this is no doubt the best Lightning team over the last 3 years, and maybe, but I think that might just be the style that they've had to play. More defensive is probably harder to go up against and match up against than more of an offensive team. But I think that the shortcomings on offense are probably pretty obvious at this point. They're not able to score as at high a level, and they just didn't really have the puck as much and on the attack as they would have liked to have had. And just the mileage and the missing bodies coming and going is certainly has a lot to do with it.
One thing that I noticed that they were doing very effectively on defense was when they were clearing the puck, they were doing like those elevated, like hanging loft clears.
Yeah.
To where they were kind of landing in the neutral zone or right on the other side of the blue line into the Colorado defensive zone, which was forcing Colorado to have to expel more energy to go back to get the puck. And I don't know why they got away from that. I know we started seeing that a little bit more in overtime again, but that was working. That was working very effectively. That was stopping rushes, and that was allowing the defense, that was allowing them to change if they needed a shift change. And that was also allowing them to kind of set up defensively, get in their lanes and force the Avalanche to make moves. And they were not making those moves in the first period. So I don't really know why they got away from that.
Yeah. And there was a lot of that. And we touched on it before whenever we talked about the Lightning's difficulty with breaking out cleanly from this Colorado forecheck. I was saying, like, just get it out some way. Just live to fight another shift. You don't have to have a clean tape to tape pass every time. You just got to get it out and live another day. And they were hoisting it out a lot, and they had some good ones that ended up coming short of icing. And in the first period that was working well for them, and of course then they don't have the long change. And in the overtime, that was something that they couldn't really do as much. I think that I can't remember exactly how the game-winning goal ended up happening, but I think it was one of those plays that was kind of hoisted back out and came up short of icing. And then there was some gassed forwards. I think it was maybe Hagel who was behind the play a little bit, kind of changing after the clearing attempt, and he was kind of going back towards the bench as the play was coming back the other way. So it's a lot more difficult to do that in those the second period and in the overtime when you got that long change and you've got those bodies going a little bit of extra distance when you're trying to change.
Yeah, I think that was the one. I think that was obviously the biggest one, but I think that was when they kind of burnt the candle at both ends. Because if I'm remembering correctly, that was actually Darcy Kuemper that advanced the puck up.
Yeah, he got an assist on that goal.
Yeah,
so yeah, I think that I kind of remember the Lightning were kind of scrambling in their own end, and they got it out, and I was like, Hagel is burned. Like, he's got nothing. And he was coming to the bench, and that was kind of a bad change, I guess, but what are you going to do? And then it was coming back the other way, and that was it, from there. And then, of course, you can always talk about the way that Colorado changed, but, it's not going to change the score.
Right, yeah, it is. I mean, look, for being honest, the better team won. If the Lightning played even 70% of the same way that they played in the first period throughout the rest of the game, they would have been the better team, and they probably would have come out on top. When you're firing off all those shots at Darcy Kuemper, who, look, and we got to give him his flowers too. Darcy Kuemper looked fantastic last night. He really did. For a guy that we have, I don't want to say been knocking, but for a guy that we have been pretty vocal about saying that he is the fourth best goalie that they have faced in this playoff series or in this playoff run, I don't think that it's necessarily incorrect. But he stepped up. He stepped up to the plate. He made some great saves when he needed to make them, and ultimately the Avalanche came out on top because they were the better team, not because they had 6 men on the ice.
Yeah, no, for sure. I felt like through the regulation, I think that the Lightning maybe had a little bit better of the play maybe through the first 3 periods, and I felt like if they had gotten a win, it would have been pretty well deserved. But once you saw the way that the overtime went, you could certainly say that Colorado deserved it. They owned the overtime, and much of the third period too. So they deserved it. And as for Kemper, I thought that he was really good. Everyone identified that as maybe not the weakness, but the biggest difference in the series. That no matter how good Colorado was or what kind of depth they had, that the Lightning had Vasilevsky, and he was the great equalizer. And for a lot of the game yesterday, he was the great equalizer. But Kemper had a strong game as well. I think the Lightning had another level that they just weren't able to get to challenge him more than they did. But whenever he was called upon, he made all the stops, and the Hedman goal probably shouldn't have gone in, but he made the timely saves whenever they needed him more.
Yeah, I mean we know that Darcy Kemper struggles east-west, especially allowing goals to go in east to west. So if you can attack in that manner, you've got a better chance of scoring at him than you do going head on. I don't know why he's really bad at those weird angle shots, but he really is. Like, that's how you're going to effectively score on Darcy Kemper. As we look ahead towards Game 5, obviously we can go more in depth with it tomorrow. I guess we'll just go plainly right here. Do the Bolts bounce back in Game 5 in Denver, or is this Colorado's swan song? Is this going to be their Stanley Cup winner? Are they going to win for the first time in over 20 years? And is it going to be on their home ice?
Yeah. Truthfully, it is tough to see the Lightning getting this thing back home, especially the way that the first 2 games went in Denver. But I'm not going to be the one to ever count them out. Everyone counts them out, and somehow they always keep going. So, it's not going to be me to say that they're not going to do it. I totally have a belief that they can bring this series back here. Like you mentioned, the excitement for Colorado, that's tough to deal with for sure. They're on the cusp of, hoisting the trophy. That's a lot to deal with, and that's a challenge. And they don't really have the experience of doing that before, and at home, and all the excitement, and it could be a little bit much for them in their first time around. And you certainly have to expect the best game yet from the Lightning. So, I certainly believe that they can do it, and you're not going to hear me write them off.
I would really love for it to go 35-2 in Stanley Cup history for teams that have come back down 3-1, and obviously that 2 being the Lightning. I can see the Lightning winning Game 5 and bringing it back home.
Certainly.
But like I said, winning 3 straight against this team who has looked better than you for the majority of this is going to be it's such a tough ask. It really is. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how good this team is. And the NHL put out a video yesterday with some of the all-time great players and coaches, and obviously growing up in Detroit, that the Scotty Bowman comment really hit me, where he said, how can you not call this team a dynasty with what they've done?
Mm-hmm.
And even if they don't win the cup this year, to do what they've done is absolutely remarkable. And it's not, me, I'm not big on like moral victories, and it's not a moral victory. When it comes down to it, if they lost, they lost. But what the team has accomplished over this stretch is something that needs to be talked about, and it needs to be remembered, and it needs to be recognized for everything that they have done, whether it's been injuries, it's been salary cap, it's been coming back from behind, it's been 18-0 in games after a loss. It's Andre Vasilevsky going 7-0 in shutouts. There's so many things that this team has done that has been absolutely remarkable, that I do think that win or lose in this Stanley Cup final, this has been a dynasty run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Obviously they've got a pretty steep hill to climb right now. They have to win 3 in a row, and against this team, it's really, truthfully, it's kind of hard to picture it happening. But whenever you're in a situation like this, everyone's like, well, was a good run, and it certainly has been. And the fan base and everyone has been, this has been an incredible ride. No matter how this ends up going on, and for me, I can find peace in knowing that they gave everything they had. You can never, no matter what I said early, like in round 1 against Toronto, I said then, no matter what ends up happening, you can never question their heart or anything like that. Those guys, they've given absolutely everything, and you wouldn't trade the experiences of this playoff run and the past 2 years for anything. It's been so much fun, and you can never question them. If they end up losing to the better team this time, then so be it, because the last 2 years and so far in this run, they've always been the better team. And if they have finally run into a team that's better than them right now, then there's nothing to hang your head about for sure.
What I find is an interesting, like, kind of full circle moment, at least for me growing up as a hockey fan, is this is essentially a Steve Yzerman built team.
Mm-hmm.
The Colorado Avalanche are a Joe Sakic built team. On Sunday, ESPN is releasing their documentary on I'll die on this hill gladly, on the greatest fight in hockey history between the Detroit Red Wings and the Colorado Avalanche. To me, I think that's just, like I said, to me, that's kind of just like a full circle moment of, okay, well, Yzerman obviously was with the Red Wings at that time. He built this Lightning team. Joe Sakic was with the Avalanche forever, playing there, and then now building the team. So that's just kind of like a cool, like, full circle kind of moment to where, we're going to see hockey again on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully the Bolts are gonna pull it out. They'll figure it out. Tampa Bay finds a way, although Colorado find a way as well. And then you go, and Sunday that documentary comes out, and it's just, for me, I think that's just a cool, like, circular moment, at least for me anyway.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, it's probably the nastiest rivalry in the league's history, and it's kind of wild to see Colorado on the big stage here again, and the fingerprints that Yzerman had on this team and this franchise, are pretty undisputable. Of course, as the years have gone on since his time here, they've kind of become smaller and smaller, as it's kind of become Brisebois' team now. But it certainly is kind of funny just thinking about the parallels and how the history's come into play for both teams.
I'm with you on that. Well, we'll deep dive tomorrow, because obviously we don't go live on Saturday. Maybe we'll do like a Twitter stream or something, or a Twitter space on Saturday, and kind of do like a little pregame action or something. But Henry, as always, we appreciate you jumping on and joining the morning show at the crack of dawn. Make sure you follow Henry at Henry Yoho, and of course at Bolts by the Bay on Twitter, and visit their website. They've got some great content on the website. We appreciate it, and we'll preview the game tomorrow. We'll try to throw out some stats and figure out some schemes and things like that, and I'll fax it on over to John Cooper.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, whatever it takes, right?
Absolutely. I'm with you. All right, Henry, we appreciate it, bud. Thank you.
All right, you got it.
Well, good morning, sir.
Last night could have been a lot better. I have a couple of blames. I'm taking the glasses off for this.
Let's go.
I blame the Rays, because whenever the Rays lose, the Lightning lose. So I blame them.
That's a bad parallel, but it's an effective and true parallel.
And then I also blame the celebrity Drake effect. We have too many celebrities at Amalie.
Charles Barkley did it.
No, I blame Hootie. Hootie was at the game last night. I blame him.
Oh, was he?
Darius Rucker himself was at the game, so I blame him.
Darius, don't call me Hootie Rucker?
Yes. There's too many celebrities to muck everything up, so I blame the Rays and celebrities for this happening. And six men on the ice.
Right. Oh, geez. Isaac Paredes hit another home run, though.
I know. He's at it again, as Dwayne Stats said yesterday during the telecast of the game. It was almost like the both games yesterday paralleled themselves because they both started off hot, and then the old decline as the games got on to as well.
Yeah,
So.
Unfortunately. So Paredes has 4 home runs now in the last 2 games.
Yep.
Which is great. Maybe he's going to take over.
That was one of the things.
role.
That was one of the reasons why they brought him over in that trade was the hitting ability that he had. Now, obviously, his average doesn't reflect that, but you give the guy enough at bats, he's going to show out for you.
Mhm.
So, I mean, obviously, time will tell to see if that's going to be true or not. But I think that it's a step in the right direction for him. I mean, maybe if he's going to get hot, he's going to get hot at the right time. But the rest of the team needs to step up too as well, especially.
Yeah. You can't just have one hot guy and expect to win.
Right.
How many times do we say, the Rays lost 2-1 because you can't score, and that's the problem. Is if your bats are quiet or you're relying on one guy. One guy, Aaron Judge gets all of the accolades when it comes to the Yankees in terms of like mainstream media. That's just because he's hitting the most home runs.
Because it's all
outside of that, other guys are stepping up.
Mm-hmm.
We need to find out who are going to be our guys. Wander Franco's coming back possibly this weekend. Tomorrow's his last game in Durham.
Some trivia for you. Today, a year ago, was his debut against the Boston Red Sox.
Interesting.
A little trivia for you. I was at that game. It was fantastic.
Was that the free IPA day?
No, that was opening day against the Yankees.
Gotcha.
This game, I was all good all the way through, and when he hit that home run against the Red Sox, his debut was really cool. So yeah, it was a fun game. I think the other criticism I think I have from yesterday's game against the Rays was this: just the ongoing thing that's been so far is the bad base running too, which has really been terrible. And I know these guys are trying to be aggressive on the base pass, but there comes a time when you need to maybe look up and look at your base coach that's maybe telling you not to go. And, bad base running was another factor last night. Randy Arozarena tried to, chug out a double, and then he gets, thrown out. So it's these ticky-tacky little league mistakes that, they're just being punished on because they're not playing fundamental baseball.
Who do we? All right. Is this who's in the wrong here for that? Because the players aren't just going, hey, you know what? I'm just going to try to steal.
I wouldn't say there's a definite wrong. There's a finger pointing at the one person that's wrong on that. It's on both sides. Now, if your coach is telling you giving you the stop sign, maybe he to his stop sign and not blow through it. That's on the player. If both sides are in the wrong, then both sides are wrong. But if you're blowing past the stop sign, then and you get thrown out, you're totally in the wrong.
So we need to start watching the coaches.
Yeah,
that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
So we can figure out where this thing is going wrong.
It's just fundamental baseball, man. It's stuff you learn in Little League. I get you're trying to be a hero, but do you really need to be a hero all the time? I mean, you shouldn't have been a hero at that point.
Right. So we look at the Rays team, and you posed the question yesterday, and I feel like we're going to end up talking about this, grazing over it until August 2nd, which is fine.
I was getting a discussion going.
You were. And and trade deadline is August 2nd.
Yes.
Are they going to be buyers or sellers? It's too far away to know a true answer to that. But we know the Yankees are basically running away with the AL East. We touched on that again yesterday.
It's true.
Second, third, fourth, and fifth place are all right closely knitted together. They're only 2 games up from the Orioles from being the bottom of the barrel for the team.
Which is crazy to say that.
Right. But that means that the AL East, you can jump from 5th to 2nd within a week, within 5 games, and it's not an insurmountable feat for you to go from 5th to 2nd, and then all of a sudden you're talking about a postseason run.
Wait, how many games did you say we're up on the Orioles?
I think they're up 2 games on the Orioles.
No, we're up 6.5.
Are you up 6.5? Okay.
Or 6.
Oh, the Red Sox are. Yeah.
Red Sox are 2.5 above us.
That's what it was.
Yeah, so we're 6.5 above the. But still, I mean, 6.5 is. I mean, that's still kind of scary too to think about. That you're only 6.5 up on the Orioles, where last year you were, double digits when it came to the Orioles.
Yeah.
So there could be a point in time where if the Rays kind of keep playing the way they've been playing, they could be in the last place mode.
Yeah. But it would still be close, which means that the season, and I guess this kind of goes against everything that I've been trying to get. Actually, it doesn't. I've been trying to get Rays fans to tell me, like, when do you start saying what we have right now doesn't work? We need to make some changes. I've never gotten that answer.
You're not going to get any answers because they don't even know. They want to say they know. They don't know.
And my answers every time are, well, we won 100 games last year.
Congratulations. That was last year.
That's cool. Like, are we supposed to get a wild card? Is Major League Baseball going to say, you guys did pretty well last season? Here's postseason run on us. Like, that's not going to happen. Like, last season, you're supposed to build upon the previous seasons. If you've got the same team, if you got the same coach, the same front office, etc. Being as tight knit as this AL East division currently is, all it takes is a couple of guys to come back from injury. Margot's likely done for a long time. Maybe not the entire season, but it's looking very bleak. If you make a trade, you keep Paredes hot. You get Wander Franco back. He's good, playing well then, and he's playing like what you expect him to play. And then you bring another bat in. The pitching has been great thus far. The pitching is better this year than our 100-win season in terms of ERA, in terms of strikeouts. Bring in a bat. Why wouldn't you want to bring somebody in and trade some prospects?
Yeah, but
let's be real.
That's the thing, though, Danny. The expectation is we want them to do that. The thing is, will they do that? More than likely, they won't. But you never know. They might surprise us this year and go, you know what? We're in the thick of this right now. We're second, third, and fourth are so tightly knit right now to make it for a playoff run. We're going to have to make something drastic in a drastic move because, I agree with you. They need to bring in another bat and probably another pitcher too. And that's going to take trading some assets away, which, in the past, we haven't really seen they give up a lot of big assets when it comes to prospects. Now, we've seen trades before where they have, given up some prospects, but we're talking about, I want to see them let go of some top prospects to get some big names in. Now, obviously, these guys might be rentals, but if it's going to be a rental that's going to make a deep postseason push, then I'm all for it. That way I can just say, okay, they made an effort to make a playoff run. You know what I mean? Because if you're going to try and make a playoff push with this team right now, you're not going to do it. And if you do somehow surprisingly make it, you're going to get bounced in the first round no matter what.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Like I said, we'll probably talk about this relatively often through August, which is fine because something's got to give. Something needs to happen, whether they stay the course or they don't stay the course. Something needs to happen because this philosophy of not spending, not really trying to move assets, the philosophy is only getting you so far, right? And you're not getting over the hump. So at some point, you've got to change your philosophy, or you've got to be content with almost.
I'm going to bring my evaluation glasses on next Wednesday when I go see them against the Brewers.
I like it.
So I'll be an evaluator this time. Not a fan.
I'm totally fine with that.
And I'm bringing my dad. My dad's big in the baseball too, so we'll both be evaluators and be like, this needs to be changed. And I'll go over to
coaches too.
I'll go over to Kevin Cash. I'll tap him on the shoulder, be like, hey, you need to do something else.
I know you hear me talking about you. I want to jump into this.
Okay.
We tried to talk about this yesterday. We ran out of time. Tampa Bay Buccaneer legend, of course, and Pro Football Hall of Famer Warren Sapp was recently on the Vlad TV show and was asked about Jon Gruden. And he said, "There's no way a fire-breathing racist would be in front of me or on my speed dial, and we haven't had a real discussion about your tendencies to not see the black man on your level. There's no way Jon Gruden is that." First and foremost, I'm 1,000% sure that Warren Sapp knows Jon Gruden better than all of us that are chirping about it combined. First and foremost.
You know what's funny about this is this story has kind of really been swept underneath the rug. Because remember, it came out for a couple weeks and it was like the big story, and then all of a sudden it just went cold. It went silent. We haven't really heard anything about this until, well, obviously, Warren Sapp talking about this. But other than that, it's been kind of quiet about this story. Now, obviously, the lawsuits that have been coming up, where Gruden is suing the NFL, obviously they're going to go to trial on this because Gruden does have a legit case against the NFL.
100%. What he said, you can't give him a pass for the things he said.
Right.
You can look at it one of two ways. You could say, yeah, Jon Gruden's racist. He's not racist. He's a homophobe. He's not a homophobe. You can say all of these things, but at the end of the day, the NFL was investigating the Washington Commanders.
Right.
And there's one fall guy, and he doesn't even work for the NFL at the time of these emails. Like, come on, man.
Right.
Like, that, what a scapegoat that is.
Which is why, have you seen the I think it's on C-SPAN, the what they're doing right now with the Commanders? It's wild, dude. Like Snyder's not even there, and they say the place for him too. And what they're doing right now, and Congress or whatever, they're just arguing with each other about, do we even need to be doing this? We're like wasting taxpayers' money on the NFL. Do we really need to be doing this right now? And the funny thing is, like when they're cross-examining Goodell's just kind of like, he's on a Zoom meeting, like, and he's just like, are you guys talking to me when you guys are asking me these questions? Like, I have no authority whatsoever to do any of the things that you want me to do. Like, I don't.
It's such a weird dynamic, and it's 100% a waste of time.
It is. And it's just
because we know that Dan Snyder is a piece of trash.
Yes,
we know that. He's like
he's a terrible person. He's a terrible owner, and then
get him out. Get him out of the NFL. Like, that's no room for that.
Isn't that vote up to the owners, the other owners in the league? Where that's up to them. That's up to them. They need to have.
Why have they not pulled this yet? Why have they not talked to the other owners and said, "Hey, let's do a vote and let's see where you guys stand"? Why has that not happened? That doesn't make any sort of sense to me. Why Dan Snyder has not been voted to stay or not to stay by the other owners in the NFL. I don't know. I don't get it.
It seems I have the owners of the NFL are kind of like the Legion of Doom in DC Comics. Because they all just get around in a big old round table with each other, like a parallel to the Justice League. And with the Legion of Doom, they're just a bunch of bickering old men that are trying to find ways just to like screw everybody else, but then they somehow screw themselves. So trying to get Dan Snyder out of the Washington Commanders, you're not going to be able to. It's not going to happen. Like, he's going to be there unless he's had enough, and he's going to sell the team. Because the other owners are not going to do it. They're not going to oust him.
So do you think that, and I'm going to try to parallel this with Donald Sterling.
Sure.
When they voted him out in Los Angeles as the Clippers owner.
All right.
Do you think that the NBA just did that because it was the hot topic at the time? Is that why they voted him out?
It was a combination of things because the media was so hardcore on it. And this is the NBA, of course, and they were so hardcore on that. The media hasn't really been so hardcore on Dan Snyder like they had been on Donald Sterling. Have you noticed that though? Have you noticed that, like, we've seen like every couple of weeks something comes out about Dan Snyder, but for almost a month or two straight, it was all about Donald Sterling and the tapes and the audio that was
That's true.
surfaced too. So, we hear something about Dan Snyder 1 month, couple months go away, and you don't hear anything, and then something else comes out, and it's another thing.
Oh, this guy again.
Yeah, it's like another thing about. It's like, didn't he just get like accused? Like it's like a couple. It's like an intermittent like time between Dan Snyder's dumb fuckery.
Right.
So it's weird, and I think the media has a lot to do with that when it came to the Donald Sterling thing. It was like they were so hard on this, like, hey, this guy needs to be out. This guy needs to be out because he's a piece of trash and what he said on the tapes. But with Dan Snyder, it's not as hardcore as it was, which is weird because both leagues are just so all about equality and diversity and everything, and Donald Sterling was out pretty quick because he sold that team that sale was like, I think, less than a year that happened.
Yeah, that went very, very quick.
Very quick. So if you're trying to say like Dan Snyder's gonna be out anytime soon, hell, he's not gonna be out anytime soon.
I mean, Dan Snyder should have been out a few years ago.
Yeah,
I think that's the problem. Good Lord.
And going back to the Sapp comments about Gruden, I mean, I think with player-coach relationships, it's totally different from executives to executives like relationships. Because at the time when Gruden was making these comments, he was with he was on the Monday night show. He was on the Monday night football show. So he was technically not. He wasn't employed by the NFL. He was employed by ESPN and ABC. So, it's just a sticky situation, man, where these guys are really respected in the world of football amongst players, and then they make these dumbass comments to get themselves in trouble, and it's just like, what does your credibility do now with the players that you coached and mentored to? Are they going to look at you the same way? And it looks like, Warren Sapp is kind of like Team Gruden still. So it's like, how do you approach that now with all that? You know what I mean?
Yep. No, and it's he went more in depth where he said, obviously when Gruden talked about DeMaurice Smith and he has big lips,
right?
And Warren Sapp's like, well, that's not racist. Have you seen DeMaurice Smith? DeMaurice Smith has big lips. He's like, that's just like saying Barack Obama has big ears. True. He does. Like he's like, and I get the, the parallels, big lips, black guy. He's like, but I guarantee you this is the first time. This isn't the first time that DeMaurice Smith has been made fun of and told that he has big lips, but it's the first time he said it was racist.
Right. And remember, the media also has a way of twisting things to make it, racist and woke and all that stuff.
Yeah. And look, and like I said, I'm not gonna debate that with people. Right. If you view those comments as racist, it's hard. I'm a white guy. You know what I mean?
We have no skin in the game, Danny.
Right. No pun intended.
No pun intended.
But I like watching. Like one of my favorite stand-up comedies of all time is the original Kings of Comedy. I love when Bernie Mac and D.L. Hughley and Steve Harvey are making fun of white people. I love to me, like the way that I am is like, unless you're like blatantly racist, you're not really racist. Like to me, that's the way that I view it. Unless you're going around and like just slandering a particular race, because I don't think stereotypes are racist. I think that they're fun parallels that each of our cultures do, and I think to me that's just funny stuff. Is that racist? I don't think it is, but like it's a very touchy subject, and I understand why people have the feelings that they do. A lot of people that are against Warren Sapp are saying, oh, well, he's just saying that because he wants a job somewhere.
I think a lot of people say Warren Sapp's racist too. I've heard that in the past where people have been saying Warren Sapp's racist. So it's like,
yeah,
there's never a win-win in situations like this. And obviously with what Gruden said, it's, I think the mindset of being the comments, when you play sports for a very long time, you coach for a very long time, you're going to say some like off the wall shit sometimes, especially in the locker room where like, and I know it's locker room talking, well, have you ever played a sport? Like
it's true.
Athletes say really shitty shit. Like it's like that.
Yeah.
But it's tough to talk about it, especially when it becomes public, and then you're making fun of groups that don't need to be made fun of. So
yeah,
I don't know. It's a sticky situation, bro.
It really, it is.
But hey, if Warren Sapp's giving Jon Gruden a endorsement saying he's not racist, then I believe
Warren Sapp gave us an endorsement on Instagram for posting it.
Well, see, there you go.
So
approved by Warren Sapp. So there you go.
I am team Warren Sapp because I am team hook us up with some eyes.
Yeah, exactly.
That's my thought. But NBA draft is tonight, Thursday, June 23rd.
I won't be watching it. That's a snoozer for me. Sorry.
Finally, the Orlando Magic have the first pick, which is what I'm there for. I've been totally on the Jabari Smith Jr. draft pick. And I think as of this morning, I'm officially changing my stance.
Really?
Yes, I'm changing, and I'm saying that Chet Holmgren is the guy that they should go after. I watched a lot of game film yesterday on both of these guys, so I could kind of articulate my point better. And I think Chet Holmgren, the Magic need shooting. That's what they need. They need better shooting, and Jabari Smith may be a better 3-point shooter, but Chet Holmgren is a better shot creator. He's also a big man that can shoot, kind of like Jokic in Denver. So I feel like he is better fit to stretch the floor for the Magic, and he's an elite rim protector as well. It's looking like they're going to end up re-signing Mo Bamba, which is good. Now you pair Bamba with Holmgren, and you've got some things that you can finally start building on towards the future. Building these teams up and rebuilding properly. Am I saying they're going to make an NBA championship run? No, because rebuilds in the NBA take a long time. That's fact of the matter. Unless you're willing to spend a whole hell of a lot of money to bring in a couple free agents, mortgage your future and draft picks to bring in, a win now mentality. To me, that's not going to happen, and that's going to be too difficult. But yeah, I'm officially changing my stance to Chet Holmgren.
All right, we'll see tonight.
We absolutely will see tonight. But that's going to do it for us on this unfortunate not victory Thursday. But we'll be back, do it all over again tomorrow morning. Make sure you check us out on all the social media networks. Search for the Channelside Sports Network, CHside Sports on Twitter. And of course, if you are watching us on YouTube, or you're not watching us on YouTube, but you're watching us, hit us up on YouTube, like and subscribe. Eventually, we're going to switch over to being exclusive on YouTube, and we don't want you to miss out. Channelside Sports in the morning. I am Danny. That is Evan. We'll see you tomorrow.